All right, y'all guys, welcome to the Everyday Finance Podcast. This is actually going to be our first episode. So we have a special guest. I'm glad we were able to actually get this set up, be able to meet up and everything. And so today I want to welcome Stephen Storey. He's an independent insurance adjuster who's made upwards of $18,000 a month, which we're going to talk about on different contracts. Currently, he's living overseas. We're going to touch on that as well, kind of some similarities that me and him have. And he's also now teaching people how to be able to do what he's doing as well. Alrighty. So welcome, brother. We're glad to have you.
Thank you for having me, man. We had a little difficulty earlier, but I appreciate all y'all that are listening, and I hope y'all get something from this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's going to be a lot for us to touch on. Now, kind of what, like I mentioned, we were talking right before we started recording, is we have some similarities in terms of like the traveling and everything, right? Mm-hmm. And one thing that I really like is being able to earn a U.S. income while being able to travel, right? So if you kind of jump a little bit into your story and how you became the Stephen Storey of today.
I'm Stephen. I'm from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I lived in Alabama until I was 26 years old. I had a business that I had got into at 22, 23. Was successful in that, but I stepped away from it. Then I fast forward a bit. I moved to Atlanta, Georgia, and then I get a call from my mom. She was like, "Hey, you should be an insurance adjuster. I'm doing it now. You need to come on and start doing this with me." And I'm like, "No, I was a personal trainer at the time. It's like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not going back to the office. I don't want to do the corporate thing." And so, times started getting rough for me. And I'm like, "Yo, like, what's going on? Like, I need some money." And my mom was like, "Look, come over here and do this for real. Like, I'm making $2,300 a week." And I was like, "Why didn't you say that at first? I came the first time."
Why'd you start with that line?
Yeah. I could have been there 3 months ago. So I went out to Colorado. She was working in Colorado. I studied. I got my license. Because I didn't know much about adjusting, neither did my mom. She was working, but she didn't really know how to get people hired or anything like that. And so I did what I had to do for the next 9 months, and then I got my first deployment. Fast forward several years, I worked all over the United States and Canada. And then during the pandemic, I saw a lot of people losing their jobs. And I was like, I got a responsibility here. I know some way to help my fellow man, my fellow woman. And I see people, in a situation where they're working from home, they need to work from home. And my industry just switched to work from home. I'll just start teaching people how to do this. I made a quick course, and I thought I was going to have like 100 people. And I thought that was it. I was going to have 100 students. And I got 4,000 students now and over the last 3 years. And we've gotten over 600 people hired in this business and made a lot of people into six-figure earners. Or they made themselves into it. I just helped them through that opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's been a fun thing for me to see people. In that time, I've lived in Canada. So I left the States and moved to Canada for a job. It was an insurance job, actually, Allstate Canada. Started working there, and then I had an opportunity to move to Brazil and keep working for the Canadian company. And so I did that. And that was 5 years ago. I've been living here for the last 5 years in Brazil. So this has been an interesting journey, I would say. This is not what I had planned exactly, but I did have some of this stuff planned. I had some goals that I wanted to achieve, and it happened for me,
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing we're going to touch on is I like the fact what you mentioned is they did it by themselves. It's like you gave them the blueprint, right? You showed them what was possible, and they took action on it. Yeah. And we'll dive a little deeper into that. Can you explain a little bit what an independent insurance adjuster is?
Yeah. So what an independent insurance adjuster is, the industry has been around for over 90 years. So it's not like a cash grab. It's not the lottery. It's not selling. It's not anything like that. Independent insurance adjusters are contracted by IA firms. IA firms are like a staffing agency that only work with insurance adjusters, and they are contracted to work for insurance carriers when they have an influx of claims. For example, a wildfire or a hurricane or influx in car accidents. Their staff cannot handle it in the amount of time that's legally required, right? So if they don't meet that deadline that's set by the Department of Insurance, they get fined for each claim that they are late on. So they can get quite expensive for those insurance carriers. So it's cheaper for them to hire IAs, independent adjusters, to handle claims for them, right? And so because there's always an influx of people coming and going from the staff side of insurance adjusting, you have deadlines that got to get hit at all times. And so that's what we do. We handle claims, all right? So when people get in car accidents, when people experience, losses to their home, whether it's anything from slip and fall to a roof getting blown off, we go in, we review what happened, look at photos, look at estimates, look at reports, we talk to insurers, we write file notes, and then we come to a settlement decision, all right? So it might be writing checks, it might be denying the claim, it might be a partial denial. It all just depends. We're negotiating with contractors. We're doing all kinds of things like that.
I find this really interesting, especially, I don't know, I mean, you definitely gonna have more data on this, but it feels like in these latest times, like there's been a lot more of these type of like catastrophes happening. I know like with the situation that happened in, I think it was in Maui not too long ago, you're kind of seeing that there's a lot of this going on. So it's definitely not an industry that's going away anytime soon, for sure, right? People are gonna get in car accidents. Houses are gonna get, damaged, whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're based around human error and the weather events. There's big possibilities for things to happen at property, right? So everything you can see and touch is insurable, right? So everything,
Exactly.
if you're watching this, you listen to this, look around, everything you see and touch can be insured or is insured, and people file claims on those things.
Perfect, perfect. And in terms of, let's say, just getting into your field, did you find that it was difficult? I know you have to get licensed, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us about that process a little bit and all that.
Yeah, it can be difficult. I'm not even gonna play with you. It can be quite hard. That's why I do what I do. I teach people how to go through a repeatable process, right? So like, if you don't know what to do next after you get licensed, you can be spinning your wheels for a year or 2 years trying to get hired because there's not a lot of information out there. It's not an insurance adjuster you can go knock on the door like down the street from where you live at. Hey, how do I do this? Because many insurance adjusters, they're not actively saying, hey, this is what I do for a living. And so it's hard to find out exactly what to do. It can be difficult from the hiring process, and it can be difficult once you get hired. It's hard to keep a job, if you don't know what you're doing. You can be well-intentioned and still get fired.
I think that's a good point to touch on. And I know for you guys, what I'm going to do is I'm going to link down below if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you're watching in the description. I'm going to put some links to some of Steven's guides and stuff he has. I know you have like a FAQ guide that they can get for free to check out, as well as he has a full program that you can go down, way reasonably priced. Honestly, I think it's like, I saw the price. I'm surprised you even selling it that cheap.
Yeah.
But this is literally kind of like an A to Z, right? Helping you to, like, how you can actually get into the field, and kind of what he was just touching on, which I think is an important one, is how you can actually go from getting your license to getting that job, right?
Right, exactly.
That's definitely important about that. And then I actually saw a video you had shot. You kind of touched on some of these points with, I think it was another, maybe a podcast interview or something I saw online that mentioned it. So definitely good points to touch on. Now, whenever you comes to the jobs, how many jobs are you typically doing in like a month or a year? Does it kind of range, depend? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I would say on average, if you're talking about inside or remote work, you're looking at maybe 2 to 3 deployments a year. So you might have like a 3-month deployment, you might have like a 4-month deployment, you might have something a little bit shorter than that, and that might make your year, right? You might have one deployment that lasts 12 months. It might last 2 years. My mom did a deployment for 6 years straight. So
Dang.
it all depends on carrier's needs, claim volume, and your skill level, right? So those 3 things are the variables there that determine how long you're gonna be on deployment, and then also your networking ability and ability to get hired at other firms. You might have 5 deployments in the same year. That doesn't mean that's better or worse, by the way. It just means you might get hired 5 times on the inside. Now, for field adjusters might work more than 3 or 4 deployments, just depending on the weather events and depending how they network and the relationships they build. Because again, you could work for one firm on one deployment for a whole year. It just all depends on you. But I'm not trying to give you a vague answer, but it's a lot of variables that
No, I get you.
place.
Yeah, depend. Yeah, it's good at least to kind of get a general idea of like what kind of what's possible. Now, so let's say a flood happens in a certain particular region.
Okay.
Is it, or whenever you're saying that you might be deployed for a long time, is it really come down to how much damage there is? Because they might have you, they might say like you're taking, I want you, hey Stephen, I want you to jump in and take care of this street and kind of go house to house. How does that process kind of look like if you're called in for a deployment?
All right, so a deployment can be a field deployment where you go out and physically inspect a property like what you're talking about, and it can also be a remote, or it can be inside. Inside desk means you're going to an office. And so what we mean by deployment is essentially a contract. That's essentially a job. That's just our industry jargon for a job, right? Now, with that being said, how it works is based on claim volume and amount of adjusters, right? So let's say it's 1,000 claims and 50 adjusters. So more than likely, each adjuster is going to get 200 claims, right? So in that situation, 200 claims could last 2.5 months, maybe 3 months off 1,000 claims, depending on the complexity of those claims. Now, when it comes to, let's say like auto or something like that, when we did Hurricane Harvey, it was 500,000 cars that got flooded. Now those 500,000 cars, like State Farm, who I worked for at the time, we probably had like 30 or 40% of those cars, right? So we had 10,000 adjusters, right? And they changed the system of how they handle claims, so it went much faster. It was about 6 weeks to get, tens of thousands of claims done. So it all depends on, again, the variables. Variables like how they want to handle the claim, how they want to use their claim operating system to handle those claims, and then how they want you to handle them. So we can handle them in a team environment, or we can handle it in a way where these claims are mine, or we can handle it by team environment, I mean it's like a production line. All right, you just do this one part of the claim every single time. So again, I'm not trying to give you anything vague, but that's a general idea of how it works.
No, that's good info. Yeah, like most jobs out there, right? You're not going to be doing a concrete thing. It's going to be kind of flexibility in terms of what types of stuff you're doing. So that's definitely good. touch on. You mentioned that you're currently working with Canada Allstate. Have you found that there's like certain employers that are best to work with, or that might have a certain process that you like the most?
Yeah, I mean, there are some that I like more than others, but at the same time, like our industry is based around the ability to learn, unlearn, and relearn. And so, what I learned today at Allstate Canada might not necessarily correlate to Geico or Allstate in the United States or State Farm or Liberty Mutual or Federated National, right? So for me, it's about building on my personal skills because again, I'm an independent adjuster. I'm not staff, so I'm going to be moving around all the time. I'm never going to be working for the same insurance company for the rest of my career unless I switch to staff adjusting. So I had to stay malleable and flexible, as regards to the skills. But I do like Allstate Canada a lot. I like State Farm has some interesting things, but I don't like the management style, so it just depends because you're dealing with software too. Like you're dealing with like on your computer, so some claims environments are easier than others.
Okay. And then this is obviously the big question that everyone wants to touch on, right?
Yeah.
I mentioned at the beginning that you've made upwards of $18,000 in 1 month, right?
Right.
And obviously, somebody's starting off. Let's say they get their license today. It's not like boom, right off the bat. Now they're making six figures. So can you give them a general idea what they can kind of expect pay wise? Let's say 6 months, a year, 3 years, if you're able to kind of give a range.
So what I would say is let's base it off of them working a minimum of 8 months. If you can work 8 months in this business, you should be making around in 8 months $60,000 to $80,000 on the low end in 8 months. Now, if you work 12 months out the year, that pushes you closer to $100,000. I have a lot of students who've done six figures in their first year. It's more than one, it's more than two, it's more than 10, it's more than 15. Okay, but they succeeded in working most of the year. Right? Some may wanted to do that, others don't want to do that, work year round. But if you work in 9, 10, and 11 months out of the year, you should be expecting to make around $100,000. Now, if you are a field adjuster, you should be able to get close to $100,000 in probably 6 months.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're a field adjuster, if you went out inspecting property, you get on roofs, 6 months in the field, you should be knocking on six figures easily. If you're doing more than that, you should be getting closer
That's
to
what the audience wants to hear right there.
Yeah. Yeah, you should get closer to 150, 160. I had a student recently, his first year, he did 280. He did that doing field adjusting. I've had students do over 100 working remote at home, but it's based around you having your skills, right? You got to have skills. You got to get hired quickly and get in and work. This is an effort-based business and it's a skill-based business, so you got to put in effort. Just because you got a license and you get hired doesn't mean they just deposit $100,000 in your account, right? You're going to work. By doing that, I'll give you some other pay scales so you can understand. So hourly rate, we're looking at anywhere from $26 an hour to $36 an hour in the beginning. That's average, $26 to $36 an hour for an inside position or remote position. When catastrophes hit, you can start looking at things like $350 a day, $400 a day, $450 a day. I had that $650 a day at 18 grand. You'll see something that's more than that too. So it's a lot of different types of deployments out there. It's a lot of different types of claims out there, but you can make some pretty good money in this business if you get focused.
And I think you kind of touched on my next question was going to be kind of like, what would your advice be for somebody? Because a lot of the times, especially, people that reach out to me, they're kind of in a situation where, in the past on my channel, I've talked a lot about investing. Mm-hmm. So a little bit of my background is I used to be a stockbroker and financial advisor back in the day. Mm-hmm. And so that's more where my expertise is kind of helping more in the like investing side and, asset allocation in a sense. Yeah. People always tell me, it's like, I'm not there yet, right? It's kind of like they're barely keeping their head above water and they're kind of looking at like, I got to get money quick. What can I do? Right. Mm-hmm. And so for me, obviously I know like at the end of the day, you're still gonna have to put in the work. But what I really liked about this is kind of what you touched on, that, you get the license. And within that first year, you have that possibility of making the six figures. It's just based about the work ethic, right? It's about what you're willing to put in. So if you're in a situation where you're really trying to change your life, that's something that's going to be quite possible with this method, right? Or with this in this career path. So.
Oh yeah, of course, man. Like I think, I hear that whole thing, like, well, I need to make some money. I need to make some money. I'm like, how much money are you making right now? And they'll be like, I'm making 35 grand. How long you been doing that? For about 4 years. Well, keep going. If you've been struggling this long, struggle a little bit longer. What's the point of trying to be rich tomorrow if you've been dealing with $35,000 for the last 4 years, 5 years, whatever? Just sit tight and follow the process. And if you do that and keep taking action, more than likely, you're going to get some of the same results a lot of these students of mine have gotten.
I agree. And I think that's a big point is, even for me, I realized the pivotal things that I've ever been able to do in my life has been situations where, I sat down and I said, okay, I'm willing to grind on this for 6 months, for a year, before I even think about quitting. right? A lot of the times, even in business, right? And you're familiar with this, but maybe you've had even moments like this where you're kind of doing something, it doesn't work right off the bat, and you might even get that like in the back of your head, you got like that one inkling of like, maybe I shouldn't even do this, maybe it's not worth it. But you decide to keep pushing forward, and then you see the fruits of your labor, appear 1 month, 2 months, 6 months down the line, right?
Bro, insurance adjusting. 9 months, bro.
Right.
9 months, I didn't get hired. Like, I'm like, yo, what's going on? I'm broke, man. Like, come on.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
You got that license, you thought that was it, right?
Bro,
You were like, oh, I'm
I
good now.
don't think I need to do anything else, man. But what happened, me waiting 9 months and then getting hired, I got licensed in 2015. I got hired in 2016. Bro, that was 7 years ago. Everything changed. It didn't seem like anything was happening in that 9 month period, but the next 7 years of my life completely changed. Like everything was different, And so that's my challenge to all y'all that's listening to this. Is like, yo, put the seed in the ground and water the seed. And you know what you do the next day? You water it some more. And if you keep watering a seed and you keep giving it nutrients, more than likely it's going to grow, right? So it might not be independent adjustment for you. Maybe this isn't a fit for you, but whatever it is, you have to understand a couple things about how this life works. You're getting what you're currently getting because of who you currently are. So if you want to have something different, you have to become somebody different, right? Mm-hmm. If you become someone different, then you get different results. So that can be a hard thing. It can be a hard thing to change, and that's where we have to change by repetition, all right? We change paradigm. Paradigm is just a fancy word for perspective. We change our paradigm through repetition. So repetition of habit, repetition of thought, and repetition of emotion. And so if we can change that through habits and routines, more than likely we will become a different person with a new paradigm, a new perspective.
I agree. Those are definitely good words, man. And then in terms of kind of going a little bit past that, right? Now you've been in this field, like you said, 7 years. Mm-hmm. Things have been kind of moving along for you and everything. Yeah. What are you doing? If you could let us know a little bit, are you doing anything investing wise? Kind of what are you doing with your money in terms of maybe the stock market, real estate? I'm not sure.
Bro, I did crypto, man. I was doing.
Oh man.
Crypto.
Oh no!
I'm not gonna tell you how much I lost, but I lost some people's yearly salary. Okay, I lost some people's yearly salary, and I was punching air, bro. I was like, God. That one it hurt. It hurt. So I've been nursing my wounds for the last year or so, just like. Do I want to invest again? Like, come on, man. That was, but
the crazy thing is, hey, there's somebody watching right now. Yeah. I shot a crypto video way back when. I can't even touch crypto, man. I thought they were going to try to get my channel shut down. I used to talk about crypto because people ask me like, hey, Tommy, why don't you talk about crypto? I shot a video. I said basically like, I think it's kind of like speculation. I don't think there's a problem with you allocating money to crypto, but it's like, it's kind of like you want to allocate, let's say 5% or 10%, and it's kind of like that amount that you're like, you're cool with losing, right? Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people, even some family members they were in deep, man. They were putting everything in there,
Yeah.
So I feel you on that.
Bad idea,
Yeah.
Bad idea, man. I think I was invested in crypto, lost the church money, lost the house money on that one. Now, how I look at it now is like, all right, real estate, right? Like, let's get some real estate. So, I'm looking at buying here. I'll buy residential here first. I'll buy residential here. And then, I'm looking at like multifamilies in the States. Investing in multifamily there. But we just got to see what these interest rates do. Obviously, we can't time the market, but, these interest rates are crazy right now.
Oh, yeah. It's getting really rough. I mean, especially looking back in the day, man. Like, I remember when I was working as a stockbroker, I was looking into, getting I was trying to get a fourplex actually. Mm-hmm. And just thinking about what the rates were and like seeing those monthly payments compared to now, the housing prices have gone up tremendously, and now the interest rates are up. It's like right now it's just kind of a tough time.
Yeah, it is. Well, about money, so you understand how it works. Like, so when they printed all that money during the pandemic, you can't let that kind of money be floating around in the day in regular society. Like, if y'all remember back in 2020, everybody had like 20 grand cash for some reason. Yeah. Like, everybody had like large amounts of money. And I'm like, what's going on? And so by raising interest rates and raising prices, they take the money out of circulation again to temper inflation, right? And so that's what they're trying to do right now. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, but
no, you spot on. That's the issue. They're passing all these acts, and it's like, even you go back to the pandemic, and they were giving out at one point. You remember they were giving out checks, which I didn't really understand. The idea is like they're giving out these checks of like $1,000. most people, that money is only going to last you so long. We're in a pandemic. You have to be at your house for 6 months. The check we know is not going to be enough. A lot of people there was a good amount of people who were just saving the check. They just put it in their bank account. They didn't even spend it, which that is what they were hoping you would do to kind of activate the economy. And then, now we have this situation where people have decided to spend the money. Inflation is going up. We got wars going on, which is causing even more inflation. Gas is going up, and even right now, I'm sure you're aware with the thing, everything going on in Israel,
Yeah, yeah.
or in the Middle East, which could turn into gas prices going up again and causing even more inflation. So yeah, it's a tough time, and that's kind of why I like touching on things like this. Right? Is you have to really you have to try to get into things that you got to figure out what you can affect, and then you got to position yourself and protect yourself for situations that are coming up, right?
Correct.
And so that's definitely good points to touch on. And in terms of you, like, so what's next for you in terms of what you got going on? I know you kind of mentioned that you're looking into getting into real estate. Are you just full kind of focused right now on insurance adjustment and kind of building your audience and everything like that?
Yeah, for me right now, I think my next steps are an insurance adjusting school, like a formalized school licensed by these different states, so I can do like pre-licensing, continuing education, things like that. I'm so deep into insurance education now. It's like that's the next logical step for me, is to build this out all the way. So it's not just courses, but it's actually like licensing, and people can learn things like exactment and stability through me, which is a software system we use for estimating property damages. But that's what's next, man. On my 6 month to 18-month horizon is like, all right, look, let's build this out. My bad, y'all got all these birds over here, man.
No, you can.
But that's what I'm looking at. Real estate will be something on the side, but I think that I committed all this time to this business. Let's keep going, because
I like that.
20 years from now, I will have been in this business 27 years. So how I look at it is like, all right, 20 years from now, I'm 55. I'm gonna be 55 either way it goes in 20 years. But in 20 years, I will have gotten so much more momentum, and I will have made so much more impact just by sticking to one thing, sticking to something and just going all the way with it.
That's the thing, is like a lot of times we look in month to month, day to day, at times year to year, but it's like when you really get that horizon, it gives you time to really achieve something that you might not have even imagined was possible. Like you said, you're gonna be 55. You might look back and say, "Damn, like I could have imagined in 2015 that this is where I would get to." Right?
Right.
And I'm kind of in the same place as well. So I definitely I feel you on that one for sure.
Yeah, you gotta commit, man. Like when I got into insurance adjusting, I told myself, I was like, I'm committing the next 5 years no matter what. I'm not doing anything else. 5 years. No more hustles. There's no more like, well, I'm gonna do Uber on the side. No. I'm doing insurance adjusting. I'm gonna learn everything about it. And it paid off,
Yeah, I like that. Perfect, man. I appreciate you taking the time. Where can people learn a little bit more about you? I know you're on Twitter. We're going to link to that down below. Is there any other places that you'd like us to kind of help people get to so they can learn a lot more about what you got going on?
Yeah, so my YouTube, if you type in Stephen Storey on YouTube, you can find me there. I got over 100 videos talking about insurance adjusting there. I got a lot of long form content. My TikTok, I got a whole bunch of videos there, a lot of short form content, obviously. I'm doing lives on TikTok probably twice a day now, so when we get off the phone, I'm probably gonna do another live here. Instagram, but I don't talk about anything on Instagram. I don't like Instagram, so. Also,
stay away from that platform.
Yeah, man, I don't like Instagram that much. It's not enough engagement there, but anyway, so then I have my email list. I do a daily email as well, so if y'all pick up the Independent Adjuster FAQ guide, there's 27 questions in there, most frequently asked questions. And your questions are probably on there, right? And that gives you access to my email list. So every day I'm talking about insurance adjusting. I'm sharing different tips and different information about our business. And that's what I've been doing for the last few years. And you can meet me. You can meet me there. You can always shoot me a message on any social media platforms. I'll hit you right back.
Perfect. And I'm on your email list, and it's like you're sending good information, so it makes it really easy where you can get that notification on your phone, and then you can read through an email, kind of at least give you. It's kind of getting like nuggets about insurance adjusting or in general. Things like that. So definitely good stuff to do. Also, Stephen also has a program, the roadmap to becoming an independent insurance adjuster.
Yep.
I highly recommend. I kind of look at it like this. Back in the day, I used to be the type where I wouldn't want to buy courses or programs or anything like that. It was more of like, I'm gonna figure out myself. Then I kind of realized it's like you're gonna pay one way or another, right? You're either gonna pay with your time or you're gonna pay with your money. So if you have time to spend, like he mentioned, right? Steven mentioned that it took him 7 months, almost a year, to be able to actually get a job once he got to the license. If you can wait that time, you're willing to struggle through it, then it's perfectly fine doing it yourself, right? He's mentioned he has a YouTube. You go on his YouTube channel and get the information that way. If you're someone who you want to take action on this immediately and you want to, you want to hit the ground running, getting information from somebody who's in the game doing it, then I highly recommend you check out his program. That way, he can kind of give you an idea. You can kind of be able to see step by step what you need to do without having to worry. And I'm sure you're reachable as well. If they have questions
Oh
during
yeah.
your program, they can touch base with you. There you go,
Oh
right?
yeah, man. We got. I ain't gonna say. I'm not gonna keep selling you on it. Click on my stuff. You get a bunch of information there, guys. You'll see it. But that
Yeah.
roadmap course, over 2,900 students have taken that course, and a whole lot of them have went on to have a lot of success. And for the price I'm selling it for y'all, this is a steal. You're stealing from me.
That's
Okay?
good. For real. All righty. Well, we appreciate you taking the time, Steven,
I
man.
appreciate
It was
it.
good talking to you, man.
Oh yeah.
All righty.
All right.